Hi everybody, and welcome to more Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic with me, John Zoidberg 1417, and with Goofuth in his shiny new armor. And the last time, Goofuth took care of some odds and ends after having completely massacred the Sith Academy and the periphery, I should say, on Korriban, which he feels very, very happy about. He did some trading, some re-equipping, and he delivered that box, that horrible, mysterious box that had haunted him so much, to Motta the Hutt on Tatooine, and now he's back on a reasonable 3,728 credits. And before I really get started, I wanted to mention something. As you probably have realized by now, Goofuth hasn't had a hit, stimulant-wise, in a couple of days now. And that's something I should probably elaborate on, although I'm going to be trying and making it quick. Because, how to start this? As you probably all know, Goofuth is quite the addictive personality. And addictions, of course, are problems, as we all know, but every problem, if you look at it closely, is just a solution to a different problem. For example, Goofuth basically got addicted to the stimulants because he needed some way to deal with the fact that the massacre at the Central Estate haunted him so much. Now, of course, the fact that he took this solution is in itself a sign of his personal weakness. Now, the fact that what brought him away from, at least temporarily, this addiction is the fact that just as addicted as he was to the painkillers, he's addicted to himself. He's an egomaniac. And this personal accomplishment of basically wiping out almost every Sith on Korriban was actually enough to be another solution. A problem in itself, of course, but this was the solution to the previous solution, which itself was a problem. By which, of course, I mean the addiction to stimulants. Why am I saying this? The fact is, the thing is, I want to say two things with this. One, this isn't over yet, at least not necessarily. He's been clean, so to speak, for a few days now, because he's still high on himself. That may change. It may only take a little disappointment, be it personal or otherwise, to just catapult him back into his addiction. Also, I'm telling you this because I think it's important for Goofuth as a character to know that he's not stopped this addiction out of some personal strength, out of some personal conviction, but really out of a weakness. Because he's so very, very full of himself and so very pleased with himself for succeeding in a goal that in itself is questionable, to say the least. Nevertheless, he considers what happened in Korriban as a great, great personal accomplishment. He considers it as, well, at least in the very depth of his mind, as some sort of retribution for what happened to the Sandrils and Metallis. And that, for Goofuth, probably makes sense, because everything he knows pretty much is destruction in one way or the other. And so the only way to retribute for the destruction he caused was more destruction. Different sort of destruction, but destruction nonetheless. He also feels that his picture of himself in his picture of Mission's mind has now really, really improved. He has a really lighter conscience now concerning Mission. But of course, that can change. That can change depending on his further actions, it can change depending on how he decides to deal with her brother and what happened, what he suggested on Tatooine, because Griff, Mission's brother, actually has gone into ale smuggling, bootlegging, possibly, and yeah, Mission actually wants us to help him, although it's abundantly clear to everyone, even Mission herself, that this isn't necessarily going to help him. It's just going to spiral him further into, well, his own excuses, his own uselessness, really. But Goofuth has actually agreed to help her in this because, well, I think there's not much Goofuth wouldn't agree to if Mission asked him to do it, and that's actually not just because he considers her his protege and because he likes her so much, which he does. But I think this is a step he's only taking because he's feeling so bad about what happened on Dantooine, and because he wants to, well, appease his picture of her, if you know where I'm going with this. Anyway, that's enough yammering for me. Don't know to fill the whole video just by talking about Goofuth's motivation. And we took care, I think, of all the storing last time. Yeah, we pretty much got some things we don't need to carry around with us, but those journals and data pads he likes to keep with him. Yeah. Alright, and it's time to do something. Could of course do nothing, but that would bring the game and probably the LP and your respect for me to a, well, halt. And Goofuth has been thinking hard about what he wants to do next, but basically it was clear to him what he's going to do next. And I think a lot of you also knew what he was going to do next. Because Goofuth has an enemies list, and it's getting thinner. He dealt with the Sith in a very, very good way. He really accomplished what he was doing, what he was wanting to do there. And the Sith are, for him at the moment, no longer a problem. For himself, in his own mind, he's done good, a lot of good. He's rid the galaxy, at least of a part of a big problem. Those fascists that the Sith are. But I talked about the close connections that Goofuth sees between economy and politics. On the political side, this guerrilla action, so to speak, was successful. But the economic side of evil still prevails, in form of the Zoka Corporation, who he didn't really harm with what he did on Korriban. And he'd like to do what he did to the Sith to the Zoka Corporation. If possible, in just exactly the same way. Don't know if it's going to be possible. Goofuth doesn't either, but he's sure as hell going to try. And he heard that actually the Zoka Corporation have pretty much good hold on Kashyyyk. Since he hasn't been able to do anything against the Zoka Corporation on Tatooine, it was a complete failure there. He hasn't been able to do anything against them on Korriban, which isn't so bad because there at least he dealt a strong blow against the Sith. But he's going to try and go to Kashyyyk, and if what he heard is right and they're really strongly represented there, then he's going to stop that. Also, and that's the second reason he wants to go to Kashyyyk, it'd be nice, Goofuth thinks, if just for once, he could go to a planet where he doesn't hate everybody. He thinks he's justified in hating everybody on the planets he's been to before. But he'd like to be in some nice company for once. And seeing as Kashyyyk is, well, colonized mostly by Wookiees, well, not colonized, it's their home world really, I think he has at least a slight hope that he's finding people there who for once will understand him and be nice to him. Also, he figures that from what he knows about Wookiees, they can't be too pleased about the Zoka Corporation's presence on their planets. So they might actually be allies against Zerka. And if they are indeed pleased about their presence on their planet, then he's going to change that. Or at least try to. So, long story short, we're going to Kashyyyk. And off we go.
You felt it, yes? Another vision? The Force continues to work through us, showing us the star maps unearthed by Reverend Malak. Kashyyyk is a lush but simple and undeveloped world. I would not have expected to find the alien technology of a star map here.
Goofuth still doesn't think that those visions are of any big relevance. I think the only relevance he's associating them with is that he, in his paranoia, kinda suspects that the Jedi in general and Bastila in particular are somehow putting them in his mind. So I don't have time for your visions, Bastila.
The visions are as much yours as mine, and they are the key to finding the Starforge and stopping Malak. The Wookiees of Kashyyyk make their home high among the Rosha branches. Only their bravest warriors dare to descend into the forbidding depths of the forest. If the star map is located far beneath us on the planet's surface, as our vision seems to suggest, it's unlikely the Wookiees even know of its existence. No doubt things will become more clear once we discover the star map's location.
Another thing I wanted to add is that at this point, Goofuth is pleasantly surprised at incident-free space travels, considering that he's been attacked the last time he traveled interstellarly. And personally, by the way, from the cinematic for Kashyyyk, I liked what I saw. And I think Goofuth, he's not really an outdoorsy type, really. He likes cities, just because of the fact that there's many people there to be manipulated. But those huge trees and this calming atmosphere, I think they're having a pleasantly calming effect on him. And of course Goofuth wants to...
How can I help?
Even Bastila wants to know... No, of course. He just wants to speak to his crew if they know anything about the planet. He's egotistical and arrogant, but not as so arrogant as to ignore the fact that other people's experiences might be of use to him.
Yes, what's on your mind?
You know anything about this place, Karth?
Kashyyyk is covered by a giant forest, I hear. Trees kilometers high. The Wookiees live in the higher branches, I think. Well, that's all I can think of, at any rate. You got it.
That's a start. We now know that the Wookiees live pretty much high up there and not on the forest floor, which apparently is dangerous.